It was no good. When she closed her eyes, his face kept changing into Drogo's.
Still as dry as the red waste.
Oh, God. What the fuck?
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Glass Candle Podcast, where we look at what is, what could be, and what will come in A Song of Ice and Fire. I'm Arik.
And I'm Lillian, and we admin over at the A Song of Ice and Fire / Game of Thrones Discussions and Theories Facebook group.
You can find us by searching ASOIAF / GOT Discussions and Theories. And today, we start off our read-through from A Clash of Kings with Dany. So we got Dany 1 this chapter. Dany only has 5 or something like that through A Clash of Kings.
Sure. 5 or 6, that sounds right.
Not that many, but it's pretty much just her like finding Karth and then dealing with shit in Karth and then crazy dream world, and then she leaves Karth. Right? Does she leave Karth at the end of the book? I don't know. We'll find out.
I guess so, yeah.
So as always, we're going to go through a brief summary of the chapter. We'll discuss who the main character is. We'll discuss who held the biggest influence over the POV character and why. We'll discuss any alternative actions they could have done in this chapter. We'll talk about how this chapter affects the other plots going forward, which probably won't have a whole lot to do for the next 5 or 6 episodes because Data's off by her own doing shit.
I wrote that down too. I was like, this doesn't affect Westeros.
Right, so we might just
until like the very last chapter.
cut this all out, or like this question out for this arc, or we can, if we're smart enough and creative enough, we'll come up with something else to drop in here. Our next one is alternative point of view, and then we have quotes, and then our last 2 is standout appearances, and then theories that apply to the chapter or don't apply, or crazy shit that people like to think applies but really isn't applicable at all.
Have we done
all
that?
And theories. Yeah, I don't think we found a theory that we actually agree with. I'm sure there is a couple, but it seems like most of the time it's this is stupid and this is why this is done.
Well, I have one. I have one for today, but I think the one we did with Brett, we talked about some good stuff with Melisandre and whether or not Stannis tried to save Crescent.
Okay, because I was thinking Melisandre was Asian, and like that was the theory I thought that I remember most from that one. The title of the chapter of the episode
is Melisandre the Red Waifu. I know.
She is the Red Waifu. So anyway, we're not talking about Melisandre. Yeah, it's waifu. We're not talking about Melisandre or waifus today. Well, we are talking about Dany, so I guess that kind of works.
She's a child.
Anyway, A Clash of Kings. She is 14, which whenever I read that, I was like, holy fuck, she's 14. So anyway, without further delay, let's jump into our summary for A Clash of Kings, Dany 1. So we open to find Dany and her 100 followers trekking through the Red Waste. Dany chose this way because the comment is a sign for her and she has to follow the comment and it points this way. And Jorah's like, yeah, well, Cal Pono and Cal Joko are going to fucking kill us if they find us, and they probably won't go this way. And Dany was like, that sounds like a good reason, too. We should still do it. So as a third of their following dies, including her sex teacher slave, Jorah, R.I.P. Didn't know about that. I thought she was like still alive, actually. But anyway, on the way, Dany learns how to feed her dragons with cooked meat. Actually, well-done horse steak, in this case. And she names them Viserion, Rhaegal, and Drogon the Dragon, which is pretty weak, right? Drogon the Dragon. Bad writing. Greatest author ever. Eventually, they come upon the dead city, and it has fruit and water in it, and perfectly livable. Dany names it Vaes Teloro, the City of Bones, and the group recovers some strength here. We get Jorah's backstory about his bitch wife, Lynesse Hightower, including this tourney where Jorah fucking beasted. Afterwards, Dany sends out her Blood Riders to go find shit, and the first 2 come back, not really finding anything, and then Azor Ahai Jogo comes back last from Karth, bringing with him Pyat Pree, Xaro Zoan Daxos, and not Ashara. I mean, not Shiera Seastar. I mean, Quaithe.
Do we have... Oh, fuck. At some point, we're going to have to talk about that. But not here. Not today. That's not happening today.
Well, I have no theories then.
You seriously want to? We don't even know her yet. Um,
Just kidding.
but you were wrong.
What am I wrong about?
Hold on, I want to make sure it's the right one. I think it's Ago. Ago comes back with some jewelry, and he found other cities
Oh, some busted ass piece of iron in a circle.
with a fire opal.
Oh, right, the fire. I forgot about
She could
that.
sell that for some money.
Yeah,
She's broke as fuck. She needs money.
I don't really know. I mean, she'd rather trade it for like food and shit, medical attention. Not really for money. It's a barter system over
It's
there.
a barter. You're exchanging goods and services. Same fucking thing.
I thought you were saying like she needs to acquire gold coins or something. But yeah, the one dude found that city with the heads on spikes outside, and he was just like, "Yeah, it doesn't seem like anything I need to go check out." And then that other place with the scrolls that fell apart or something.
Yeah, that was the same place where he found the bracelet.
Actually, my annotations say that.
Your
uh,
annotations can suck a dick.
so the whole red waste. There's not really part to talk about like the actual region and our structure, so we can talk about it here. Um, so yeah, it didn't always used to be a dried up wasteland. The people who live in Karth kind of controlled that whole area, and as we can see from Base Deloro and the two other cities that what's his nuts found, they actually had a thriving sort of economy and realm, for lack of a better word, there. And it all went to shit sometime before the Doom. There's theories that go around about it happening during the Bloodstone Emperor Long Night thing, where the Great Empire of the Dawn folded in on itself, like there's some kind of cataclysmic event there. But it's all substantial and stuff like that, whether or not the Red Waste became a part of that. There's nothing really to point to a theory about it. But anyway, your little geography lesson.
Okay.
You look very interested.
Substantial was not the right word, and I can't think of the right word, but you were wrong in using the word substantial. I'm drawing a blank, but I know that was not right.
Yeah, I know too.
Okay.
I'm
So
trying
I'm
to.
sitting here like, what the fuck is the word?
I don't know.
Okay, well, at least you know you were wrong.
But I was trying to play it off like I wasn't, and then you just ruined everything. So the main character of the chapter I picked was Dany.
Duh.
So this is her first chapter being like the sole leadership figurehead. Before or in the last one or two or so, Drogo was technically still alive or still there, and now that he's entirely gone, Dany is the sole figure of leadership. And from a much more meta perspective, this is pretty much this chapter is the outline of her entire arc. So she makes a call. She worries if she made the right call or not. Her people die, but she cares about them. It turns out she did make the right decision, and everything turns out it'll be okay. And then cliffhanger, and it's like that
Every single
series of
book.
events in all of her major arcs.
No, I agree. Like it has to be Dany. It's all focused on her and her growth and development as a leader. You know, she even says it herself in the chapter that she has to be a woman. She's no longer a girl if she ever was one. You know, because she's responsible for leading all of these people, and they are looking up to her, and she has to be strong for them.
Right. I'm gonna circle back around to the whole theme of being strong for people because I found a couple of those quotes that just kept going back to it in like three different places. All right, so on to our next one. Who held the biggest influence over the POV character and why? You want to go first?
Sure. So for biggest influence, I had it was Danny's people, her Khalasar in general, because she sees that they're wasting away as they're going through the red waste, and she feels like shit because, like you just said, she feels like she made the wrong decision, and she feels like it's on her that people are dropping off and dying. So I feel like her worries about her responsibility for her people influence her sending off her. Are they considered her blood riders? They're her blood riders, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, her blood riders to go scouting.
I definitely agree with you. I'm going one step backwards from there. Um, I picked the comet. Um, so the reason why Danny wanted to go that way was because the star and she made all these references back from the last chapter in Game of Thrones, how it first appeared when she sacrificed Drogo and the dragons got birthed from it, and this was all just a magic sign because every single faction has to believe the fucking comet is a harbinger for them and their group alone. And she even flat out says it, like, well, the comet's this way, and comet's my comet, so we got to go find my comet. And that's what sets her off in this. And also,
Yeah, I had something written down for that later.
she's already super protective of her dragons.
Mm-hmm.
Already, they've been around for like 5 minutes, and obviously, like, they're invaluable, right? And this kind of sense of protection, and not borderline crazy at all, because I understand like why she would be fiercely protective of them, but it's just something that's going to keep growing and growing and growing throughout these chapters that we read coming up with the spoiler alert, Warlock's trying to steal him.
Well, they're her children.
They're not real children, but I'm just saying, because we know what's going to happen later on in the House of the Undying and all that stuff, seeing it established here in the very beginning, how she's not going to let anyone take him, and she's referring to Calponi, and Jake.
Jocko.
Right. Pony and Jake will try to kill him and take the dragons, and she's already like, no one's going to take him from me, and that's just going to build as we go on forward.
Okay, but seriously, she even says it in the chapter. Like, they are her children. They're likely the only children she will ever have. You know, so it makes sense for her to be protective of them for multiple reasons. One, they're her children. Two, it's a callback to her lineage. Like, I don't understand why it's a bad thing for her to be protective over them.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that's bad.
Okay.
Well,
you called her crazy.
Well, because, like, it's not irrational, but it's just, like, the adjectives that describe how she's responding, where Jorah's like, Jake and Pony are probably going to try to take him. She's like, they're not going to fucking take him. And she's like, has a very aggressive reaction to it. Just the idea of them not being hers. That's all I'm pointing at.
Okay.
But they're not children because they're not human. That's all I'm saying.
Fine, whatever.
I understand the metaphor for it.
They literally drank her breast milk.
Yeah, no, that's weird, right?
That's fucking gross.
That's weird. So our next one up is alternative action. So what could Dany have done differently to avoid the result that we know that happens? Well, everything does kind of pan out for her here. Lots of suffering along the way. Lots of people died. Didn't really have any other choice, so I don't really know what she could have done different. Once they did get to Veas Teloro, she did a good job at putting the people to work to lift the stones so the horses can eat, and then maybe they can start planting seeds and shit like that. Fix the gates, because if the city was sacked once, it could get sacked again, and people might come and fuck around, so fix that shit up. She made some good calls here.
I agree. In my mind, is the best possible scenario. You know, she actually thought ahead in terms of what was going to be around her. You know, so the first time when I read it and seeing that she sent all of them south, I was like, why are they? It's like southwest, due south, southeast. I'm like, where about everybody else? And then I realized why. So that was me being stupid. But so yeah, she made good decisions.
There's a lot of people knock on Dany for forcing her people to walk through the Red Waste, and they saying like she got a bunch of people killed by making them do that.
What the fuck else were they gonna do?
Exactly. Like, no one ever brings up this whole Pony and Jake are out there wandering around and everybody would kill them.
Who the hell makes that argument?
A lot of people do. Whenever like they try to find like every single thing that Dany.
Oh, that Dany was handed. Blah blah blah.
Right.
Those people.
And then she was stupid for having to walk through the Red Waste. Well, dude, she doesn't really have a choice because hundreds of thousands of people are probably going to kill her and then take her back and steal her dragons and stuff like that. So she didn't really have much of a choice, and that's a bad argument. And if you like that argument, then you're bad.
Then you're bad.
Right. It's stupid. It's silly. Fight me in the comments. So our next one up is how does this affect the other plots going forward?
It's a trick question.
Right. The only thing that we have to look for going forward is Quentin, and nothing here really leads up to Quentin.
Um, so butterfly wise, if we are trying to place something in Westeros, we get some history on Bear Island and Liness.
Right, but that doesn't really push things
I
forward.
know, I'm trying to think of how that could potentially maybe in future books. I think the high towers are going to come to play. I don't want to get into this. Never mind. It doesn't affect Westeros right now.
Right, like I said, the only thing we have really going for us is Quentin, um, and then at this point, there's nothing happening there yet. So it's a dead question. On to the next one, and it's alternative point of view. Who'd you pick?
I picked Quentin.
Really?
Yes. I completely forgot that he existed right now. No, I picked Jorah.
Oh, I was like, what the
Did you?
fuck?
You took me seriously. Wow. Okay. No, I picked Jorah because obviously, he gives Dany counsel and everything else. But at this point, fuck. I can't remember, when does he actually change sides?
The first book, I
Is
thought.
it during the first book? Okay. So, I want to get inside his mind because if he has changed sides already, I want to see if there's any internal conflict in the way he speaks to her and the advice he's giving to her, knowing that there are still people coming for them, people that know what he did. Like if he's ever worried about all of that catching up to him.
Hmm. He's not yet pushing this whole go to a shy thing, is he?
He was doing that at the end of the first book, and then once the dragons were hatched, he kind of dropped it.
Does he get more into it as they're in Karth? He's like, hey, we should fucking leave Karth and go to a shy.
I don't believe so because they spend the entire time in Karth, and then she's spending the time trying to get ships. By the time she does get ships, I can't remember where he wanted her to sail to. I don't believe it was a shy though.
Okay, so he's dropped that bit. Yeah, I picked Jorah too, because there's no other option, and I really don't care what he has to say or what's going on in his head. Uh, it, I had to answer the question.
Well, you could have picked someone fun like one of the Blood Riders to see what they saw out in the middle of nowhere, or Jerry and Jerry, Erie and Jeekwe. I can't say anybody's names anymore.
Is that their ship name? Jiri?
Apparently, well, when I was editing the last one, what the fuck I called Renly and Stannis. I I said it like as one word, and I was like, what the hell is wrong with me? Um, so it's them, the Blood Riders. You could have been like the random woman whose kid died. Uh,
No, none of that seems very interesting to me.
you could
Uh,
be a dragon.
Ugh.
I'm sorry. I know you get mad at me when I start doing this.
Yeah, no, like no one else in Danny's camp right now interests me at all, except for Danny. And because I thought about uh, Azor Ahai Jogo, but he kind of just runs off and is probably thinking, oh, weird people are following me back. I'll kill them if they try shit.
Well, Piet Priest speaks Dothraki because when I first read it, I was like, how the fuck did Jogo even talk to the people of Karth? And then Piet Priest speaks Dothraki. So, yeah.
I imagine a lot of people in the East speak Dothraki.
Really?
Well, yeah, because they go to all the cities and sell slaves and buy shit. Drogo was all the way in fucking Pentos.
Yeah, and people like paid him tribute so he didn't fuck up Pentos.
Right. I imagine they know rudimentary Dothraki.
I imagine they see these people with the horses and the hair and they know not to fuck with them.
Illyrio brought him in to have a wedding and a party.
Because Illyrio spoke it.
Right. So Piet Pri can speak it. Illyrio can speak it. I imagine there's probably a couple people in Black Goat City and
Cahor.
yeah, that one. Volantis. There's probably a couple people that can talk it. Slaver's Bay. I imagine there's some that
Yes, because there's
can do
Dothraki
some
in the
grunts.
fighting pits.
right? So in all those places
All
in
right, all
Essos,
right, all right, all right, all right.
there you go. You helped me make my point. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh yeah, so my alternative POV is Danny. So now we're going
Wait,
on
what is Danny?
2 quotes. Yeah, I picked Danny because I don't care.
You. Okay.
You go ahead with the first quote.
What did you say?
You can go ahead with the first quote.
Oh, okay. Sorry, you broke up. All right, so this is kind of a callback to what we were discussing earlier. On the first page of the chapter, Danny is thinking about the comment, and she said, or she's thinking, "It is the herald of my coming," she told herself as she gazed up into the night sky with wonder in her heart. "The gods have sent it to show me the way." And you kind of already covered this. Basically, anybody that sees the comment thinks it's for them. And it's fucking stupid.
I think she has the biggest reason for it. To thinking that the comment is for her. Because she
Because
got.
of the dragons?
Yeah. Nobody else really has a thing for it. Like there's nothing supernatural that happens around them.
Old Nan said it meant dragons.
Right, but Old Nan wasn't like, this is a sign for the Starks because red is
a Lannister color and we're gonna die.
Yeah, like, but the Lannister said, oh, it's crimson and gold, the Lannister colors. It means Joffrey is going to be king.
Joffrey's going to be a great king, and
I can light a bonfire, and you can be like, oh yeah, the fire is red and it's for the Lannisters. It's stupid. Melisandre said it, and then she did her magic trick with pulling the sword out, the fake light bringer. Light bringer? Light bringer. So the first one I'm pulling out is 150. So this is kind of a play, like almost the Dothraki version of the Westeros version of the saying. So Dany says, no, Dany thought, I have 4 warriors, is what she's talking about. The rest are women, old sick men, and boys whose hair has never been braided. So that's kind of like the Dothraki version of the women, children, and green boys. Right.
Nice.
So I saw that pattern there. I'm like, oh, women, children, and boys who haven't had their hair braided yet.
Okay, totally didn't see that.
I am starting to hate that phrase.
The green boys?
Yeah, it's so annoying. Like, I get it. They took all the soldiers out. That's all you got to tell me. I know who's left. I can almost finish your thoughts for you, Catelyn.
Well, we're done with Cat, so...
Yeah, I know, right? You got the next quote.
I know, I'm trying to see where yours was. What is yours around?
The first page, probably, or the second page. Calponi spoke to you gently.
Okay.
Or Copono.
Well, my next one isn't until she names the dragons. Do you have anything before naming the dragons?
Maybe.
Or do you just want to trade off regardless?
Okay, so my next one up. I think this is before she names the dragons. So she's thinking about how Cal Pony took all the good warriors and stuff, and she's thinking about her people, and she thinks they're not strong, she told herself, so I must be their strength. I must show them no fear, no weakness, no doubt. However frighten my heart when they look upon my face, they must see only Drogo's queen. And this feeds into she felt older than her 14 years that you picked out earlier.
Yeah.
But this, and then in combination with another 2 quotes later on, I'll just go ahead and jump into those. This is probably going to skip past your Name of the Dragons thing.
Oh, go ahead.
Ties into the same thing. She's feeling, or one of her Yuri or is Jikwi. She's like, hey, your hair's starting to grow back. And she's like, she thinks Dothraki braid their hair whenever they, win fights and shit. So she thinks, perhaps I should do the same to remind them that Drogo's strength lives within me now. And then she sees Jorah all tired, and she's like, he might be a knight and all that stuff, but he's not a dragon. I got to be strong for him too. So she's thinking she needs to both be internally strong and then externally strong to put up this face, this appearance of strength for the people that are following her. Because she is so frail, and they are frail too, but because she's their leader, she has to, act the part. Um, and there's this old saying, half the job or half the part of being in charge is acting the part. So as long as you're acting like you're in charge, then you should be good to go, right? And that's what Danny's pretty much trying to think. I need to act like it, and then hopefully that'll give the people behind me more confidence in me.
So part of that bothered me on the first part where she's talking about when they look at me, they have to see Drogo's queen, but then there's parts in the beginning of this chapter and then in her very last chapter of A Game of Thrones, she says, they're mine, never like they were Drogo's, they're mine. And so if she really feels that they belong to her, why does she need to reiterate the fact that she was Drogo's queen? Like, to me, that was just weird.
I think it's her trying to put out that she is still Dothraki because she's still like that's the only thing she's been for the entire last book. Pretty much, she's always been a Targaryen, but she's also been
She's a Khaleesi.
molded, and yeah, like being the Khaleesi is part of her identity now.
Okay.
So she probably still needs to, or probably feels that she still needs to live up to that kind of not stereotype but position, because her people are still
Yeah.
Dothraki themselves.
They are, but okay, so if she wants it, it's hard because if you look at it that way, then she should be embracing going to Vaes Dothrak and being with the stupid crones. So she can't have it both ways.
Why not?
You can't be a Westerosi queen on one hand and try to stay, what is the word I'm thinking of? Stay, I don't know, something in line with the Dothraki tradition on the other hand. It's counterintuitive. They go against each other.
Well, she's trying to merge the two together.
Okay.
So, are you thinking that Dany should go back to Vaes Dothrak?
No, not at all. Well, because I'm saying because she wants them to see her as Drogo's wife. She wants them to see her. Yeah, she wants them to see her as Drogo's wife. And the continual reiteration of that, they know what the wife is supposed to be. They know where the wife is supposed to go. Like, do dragons just make everybody forget how everything works in the world?
Probably.
But they're babies. They're not like, rawr, I'm going to eat you.
Does that matter?
I don't know. I've never seen a dragon. I don't know.
Well, the answer is apparently it doesn't because none of these people are revolting and trying to carry her back to fucking Vaes Dothrak.
Who the fuck is going to fight her? They're all the
Well,
old people and the children and the sick and the women.
Ago, Azor Ahai Jogo, and the other dude,
Ricaro.
like, yeah, they've all been like, no, like this chick's for real, and
Because of the
we're
dragons
gonna
and
do
she didn't
this
die.
because of the dragons and she didn't die, the unburnt, and all that stuff. So she's built up this reputation, and then she was also Drogo's wife, and Drogo was super strong and badass, and now she is also the same thing.
Okay, fine.
I don't understand the point you're trying to make, though.
Do you think I understand myself half the time?
I hope so. Fuck.
Oh, it worked in my head. I don't know. All right.
You want to talk about their names?
Yeah. I'm all over the place. Okay, so Danny is telling it never really specifies who she's telling, but then later on Ago is speaking, so I guess she's telling her blood riders. She's telling him about the old dragons and how they were named after the old gods of Valyria. Talking about how big they were and things that they could do. And Ago is like scared of the black one because she hasn't named him yet, and says, "Khaleesi, there sits
That's racist.
Balerion. He's how else would you like me to describe him, sir?"
I'm just saying, like,
The
go on,
one
go on.
with the shimmering red scales throughout and no other color associated with it at all. Um, Hold on. So he says, "There sits Balerion, come again," and then a little while later we find out that she names them Rhaegal, Viserion, and Drogon. Rhaegal for Rhaegar, Viserion for Viserys, and Drogon for Drogo. Um, and so it stood out to me because so if Balerion is, or no, if Drogon is Balerion come again, I just thought it was really funny because in A Game of Thrones, Viserys has a comment about Drogo being Aegon the Conqueror come again. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And that phrase is like it still doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why he would associate Drogo with Aegon. Um, but I just thought it was a cool parallel.
If I had to guess why he called Drogo Aegon, it's because he's big, strong man, conqueror, never lost a fight, big army.
I guess.
Yeah.
Aegon did. I don't want to get into it.
Well, I mean, like,
Aegon had
there's
dragons.
no.
He didn't really have a big army.
Yeah, no. Like the comparison, just be like Drogo is a, a unique person. Like Aegon was a unique person, a conqueror of sorts. Drogo wasn't really a conqueror, but he never lost, and he had a large influence over the other Dothraki and in
Well,
Essos
he
in general.
conquered other what the fuck are they called? Khalasars. He conquered other Khalasars and basically absorbed them.
Right. So there you go. There's your answer.
All right.
Uh, my next one is our. We can't have a chapter with Jorah in it without him being a
Creep.
weird creeper. So Dany is talking to Jorah in her tent, and as she's talking, her lion skin blanket thing is wrapped around her, and it kind of like just slips off her shoulder just a little bit. No boob is showing, but it just kind of just like slips down, and then she pulls it back up, and she is asking a question like as she pulls it up, and then Jorah answers, and it says, Jorah lifted his eyes from her shoulder to her face. Like they were talking, and then this happened, and she pulled it up, and he immediately started trying to look at her tit. It's like, come on, you fucking weirdo. She's 14. I don't know what you're shrugging for. What are you shrugging for?
He's a man. And in that time, she was an adult, kind of.
You don't need to devil's advocate this, or whatever. This is weird and creepy.
Yes, he is weird and creepy. Jorah is weird and creepy. Littlefinger is weird and creepy. It is what it is. But I also point out how he's weird and creepy, and I don't feel bad for him later, too. So
I know. Like, I read that, and it's just weird that it had to be put in there. He lifted his eyes and stuff. Like, come on, man.
attention to detail. Okay.
I don't like Jorah.
So around that same time when he's going over how he got Linnes, in the tournament and everything, so it stood out to me. I fight as well as any man, Khaleesi, but I have never been a tourney knight. Yes, with Linnes. How do you say your name?
Linnes.
Linnes? Okay. Linnes's favor nodded round my arm. I was a different man. I won joust after joust. Lord Jason Mallister fell before me, and Bronzion Royce, Sir Ryman Frey, his brother Sir Hostine, whatever, Lord Went, Strongbor, even Sir Boros Blunt of the King's Guard. How old are these people?
Well, back then, not that old.
Because that was right after the Greyjoy Rebellion. So Jorah is over with Dany right now, and he's in his late 30s, right?
30s, 40s, yeah. I put him always around 40.
I always picture Bronzion, and I think we talked about this before. I always picture Bronzion as an old man. And
Yeah,
so,
now,
like, reading this, and I feel like Mallister is got to be 40s, 50s. So is it normal for... Okay, so this was, what, 12 years before our story started? 10 to 12 years? 9 years.
yeah,
Theon's been
something
with
like
them for 9 years. 10 years.
10
Fuck.
years.
Around 10. We're going to go with 10.
Yeah, 10 years ago.
So 10 years ago, let's say Bronzion was 40. Are people that old participating in tournaments? Is that a thing?
Apparently.
Oh.
Because Mallister, Because Ned and Robert, they're both like 35
Uh-huh.
or whatever now. So I can't imagine Malister is too much older than them. So Malister would be 25. Ron John would be 35 or 36, 37. Ryman Frey, who the fuck knows? Hostine, he'd be 30.
Yeah, Hostine would have been young.
Lord Went, that'd be uh, Batman's brother. He'd be 35. Strongboar, he'd be early 30s.
Who the fuck is
Or
the Strongboar? I feel
Lyles
like I should know
Craycall.
this. I knew it was a Craycall. Okay, I got Craycall.
That's pretty cool. I knew his first name too. And then Boris Blunt, yeah, he'd be 30. Or around 30 is what I imagine all these people would be.
Okay. Well, it's just, it's a bunch of names that obviously are in our current story. So
Mm-hmm.
to think back on them in the previous timeline with the history of how things went down was cool. Nice little piece of information.
And then Jamie Lannister too.
Oh, yes, he broke 9 lances against Jaime, and Robert decided to name him, and then so he crowned. I almost said Lyanna. He crowned Lynesse the Queen of Love and Beauty. Lynesse is a bitch, man.
Yeah, that's what I said. I don't have any other quotes, but
No, I got two
no.
more.
Do you talk about how Lynesse is a money grubbing skank?
Little bit.
Go ahead.
All right. So Jorah's still telling his story about Lynesse and how he lost everything. She wasn't happy on Bear Island because they didn't have shiny, pretty things. And
Bears.
and so he says, nothing mattered but our love, I told myself. We fled to Lyce, where I sold my ship for gold to keep us. So that was after he tried to sell some poachers to slavers and why Ned wanted to take his head. So basically, all of that, he tells this long story of how in love he was with her and how he brought singers and cooks and basically would take her on trips and things to keep her happy and make her happy. But Bear Island isn't a rich, I was going to say country, isn't a rich
Place.
place. What the fuck? What is it? It's a.
It's an island.
Okay, so Bear Island isn't rich, and
It's not gaudy. It's not flashy. It's not what this premmed up
it's
high tower
it's like
bitch
it's very
wanted.
minimalist. She's totally not one of those girls at all, and but he was so in love with her that he would do anything for her. But the fact of the matter is, he was I feel like it wasn't love. I feel like it was just infatuation because he had that whole complex of she is so out of my league. I have to do anything to keep her. And
Right,
so,
the super hot chick, and then he wins this big thing, and he's all like, "I'm a badass, and I got the hot girl too. I want to marry her." And wow, I don't really like her that much.
and to me, that it makes him even more creepy because it was all about looks. Like there was nothing substantial there. It was just looks,
I
and
mean,
that
that
was it. Like,
I don't think that makes him creepy.
well, no, it makes it creepy because then, like 2 pages later, it's Danny looks just like her.
Oh yeah,
That's why it's creepy.
yeah. I mean, I did kind of feel bad for him here because at the end, like he has to go all the way to Essos and start. He has to become a sellsword, and then his wife jumps on some other rich dude's dick, and I mean, she made it.
See, I don't feel bad for him. Like he could have put his foot down, or I, I just don't feel bad for him. He should have realized like what he got himself into. It's his own fault for feeding into it.
Well, yeah, it is his own fault.
So that's why I don't feel bad for him.
Um, I still feel kind of bad for that story. Not for him now, because, like I said, he's a creepy person trying to get in with a 13-year-old, 14-year-old. But I think that whole backstory is pretty pretty tragic for how it went down. Um, They had nothing in common, that's for sure. But yeah, maybe he was in love with her.
Maybe. I don't know.
You'd figure if it was just infatuation, like after like that first fortnight when she's like, "Bring the goldsmiths, bring the cook. I don't like bears." He'd be like, "All right, well, you can leave." Like he wouldn't have tried to do all this stuff to make her happy if he wasn't like completely in with her. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it just depends because there are those types of guys where they just want that trophy wife. They don't care about anything else. Like the most important thing is to have something pretty to show off.
Well,
And
that doesn't sound like Jorah at all.
I just feel like he was so obsessed with her looks that that's why I don't feel bad for him.
Well, it was years of him doing all this stuff to make her happy. So, like I said, I don't think it was just looks.
Eh, fine.
It was, I think, Danny looking similar to Liness is kind of what's um, like making him so loyal to her. And then like maybe like he sees it as like this is my second chance. Like
Oh,
I
Jesus
can
Christ.
I can do all the things too, and then maybe Liness point two will actually like me.
2.0?
Right. This other version of Liness will actually like me. That's not the point. The point is what I said, not what I referred to it as.
Oh,
This other
okay.
version of his wife who hated him might actually like him.
0.2%. She'll like him. Did you want to talk about her some more? Otherwise, I have quotes. More
No,
quotes.
I really don't want to talk about her at all. And your shitty family.
Okay. Um,
Fuck the high top.
I marked this passage, but yeah, I'm gonna skip it. I don't want to read it. Um,
Okay.
well, I marked it because it's cringy as fuck, and because George is like a pervert.
Oh, where Danny tries to imagine getting with
Hold on.
Jorah, and she's like, "Yeah, no, this ain't working."
She tried to imagine herself in Sir Jorah's arms, kissing him, pleasuring him, letting him enter her. It was no good. When she closed her eyes, his face kept changing into Drogo's.
Still as dry as the red waste.
Oh, God. What the fuck?
Not wrong.
Next quote. Actually, we don't even have to go over that because we already talked about Pyat Pri knowing Dothraki, so I'm done for quotes.
All right, so on to our standout appearances.
Jesus Christ.
So you mentioned the whole quote earlier, but the standout moment, I guess, because it's not really an appearance, but it's Jorah's tourney at Lannisport. So we already mentioned all the names that he beat. Pretty well respectable names, but then that finale where he broke 9 against Jaime, like not just run passing and misses and stuff like that. He broke like all 9 of his lances against Jaime, and then I guess he did it good enough to where it was better than Jaime, or Robert was just being a prick. It's just
That's
like
what I
fuck
think.
you, Kingslayer.
That's what I think.
But still, props to Jorah for staying on his horse 9 times in a row and still scoring hits every single time. That's my standout appearance for this bit. And then afterwards, he was so like caught up in like how awesome he was. He goes up to the High Lord, is like, "Hey, dude, can I marry your daughter?" And the guy was like, "Yeah, sure, man." Apparently, it was as easy as that.
And there are theories around that, and I didn't write them down.
I don't know any theories on that, actually. Just
right.
that Jorah got a little drunk and was like, "Can I like marry your daughter?"
Well, there's theories that Jorah was set up.
By who and for why?
I can't remember. I just know that there are theories that so Jorah openly admits like he isn't a tourney knight, and he says later on that he had to, ransom back a lot of stuff because he would compete and he would lose. So I can't remember who has a video on it, but something about that happened, and then the High Towers accepted his offer when it made no sense whatsoever. And then why were there slavers all the way over at Bear Island? And so in
That
some way he was
tricky.
set up.
The
But I
slavers
don't
on
know
Bear
for what
Island,
point.
I always just assumed that was uh, a narrative error on the author's part. He hadn't figured out the whole world yet, and like how close or how big Westeros was, and why the fuck Taroshi slavers would go all the way up to Bear Island when they could just go over to Skagos Island and like right there. Like it doesn't make any sense.
Well, the Skagosi would eat them.
Sure, but still, like you would, boat all the way around the Iron Islands, and that's just a long way. Not a Bear Island's not a big port city. There's no reason for slavers to go all the way up there. So I don't know. I just assumed it was a writing error
No clue.
and not there being some huge conspiracy to set up Jorah fucking Mormont.
Well, obviously it wasn't that interesting because I can't remember the details of it,
Is it?
but it exists somewhere out there if anybody wants to look it up. So my standout was Vase Teloro, the city itself. The
City of
fact
Bones.
the fact that it's all like sun bleached and just empty. It's kind of creepy.
But still, apparently,
Still thriving though. There's water.
yeah, still fertile enough to grow fruit and all kinds of fruit, peaches and
Figs.
figs, and a well that hasn't dried up or anything.
It is very strange.
But sure,
Why not?
they were driving through hard packed clay 10 minutes ago, or an hour up the road. And then that other water had brimstone smell. But
Yeah, that sounds so gross. Like, how could you even get that down? That just,
and you're thirsty. You're thirsty, man.
I guess.
I understand that part of it. So now we're on to theories, and you don't want to talk about Quaithe not being a Shara or Sheer Seastar, right?
Not today. No.
Cool, me neither.
Okay.
So the dragon bones that what's his face walks by.
So
Isn't the theory that
Ricardo says he
it's
passed the bones of a dragon he swore so immense that he had ridden his horse through its great black jaws.
right? Isn't the theory that it's sheep stealer?
Nettles, yes, Nettles and Sheep Stealer.
Nettles is the person, but sheep stealer is the dragon. So why would that be sheep stealer?
So why would that be Nettles? Is how I put it in my head.
Nettles is the person.
I know, but Nettles was Nettles was driving.
Fair enough.
How else do you? I don't know what else to say. Driving, writing, directing, whatever. So
Flying the dragon.
anybody that doesn't know who Nettles is, Nettles was a dragon seed during the Dance of the Dragons who basically fed a wild dragon a bunch of sheep to tame it so that she could ride it. She ended up having an affair with Daemon Targaryen. Fucking whore. And so then Queen Rhaenyra wanted her dead. And instead of killing her, Daemon sent her away. And so there are theories that...
After he banged her for a couple days at Harrenhal.
Because she's a whore. So there are theories that she
Don't blame Daemon at all.
So there are theories... There are theories that she ended up in the Vale, in the Mountains of the Moon. And that's why the burned men are the way they are. But then there's also the theory that she went so far east that she ended up in Vase Teloro, and that's where these dragon bones came from, that she ruled over, like, a dragon city. No? You're making a face.
I don't see how that would be a dragon city.
Something about because she had the dragon, she was able to take over Vase Teloro, and that's why she became, like, the queen.
Of nothing?
Vase Teloro when it was thriving. This was 150 years ago? The dance?
Sure. Yeah, because Bloodraven's like 100 years old. And then it was about 50 years before then, I guess. A couple generations.
I want to say it happened around 159.
Yeah, if you say so. I'm not refuting the dates on it. No, I got the impression that Vase Teloro was has been blasted for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, not just 150 years.
You would think with how like sun bleached it is,
Right,
right?
and how there's nothing else happening except for Karth in that whole area.
And everything around it is crumbling, and even the other city they found that's basically the same thing as Vase Toloro, like the scrolls were all crumbling, and
Right,
there's no sign of like, well, yes, there's vegetation, but there's no sign of life, like actual life.
right. I thought she just ran away and then died.
She crashed and burned there.
Well, maybe Nettles died and then Sheepstealer was going back to Ashai, but doesn't make
Oh,
any sense why he would go to Ashai because dragons go back to where they've nested, is what's theorized in story or whatever. So it would make sense for Sheepstealer to go back to Dragonstone, but he didn't do that either.
hmm.
Or it could be just some random fucking dragon that wandered too far away
From a shy.
from Ashai, from that whole area.
It was a special dragon that couldn't find its way back.
Right. And it was all bones. There's no flesh or anything on it, so it's been there for a long fucking time too. So
Well, I imagine our stories and has vultures and shit.
can you confirm that?
They have sharks. I'm sure there's vultures.
I don't know.
Well, crows
you talk
pick.
crows and ravens eating the dead bodies, not vultures. So
Fine then. Pretend it's a bird is a fucking bird that eats a dead person. It's a fucking
theory.
bird.
Or do vultures exist in the world of Ice and Fire?
I'm sure that word is not in our story.
I'm sure it is.
I don't feel like searching right now, but I will later.
So, my last point on that is I don't care who or what the dragon was.
Do you think it's meant to tell us anything, or is it like a sign to Dany that she should keep going? That it's a well, she didn't see it herself, so it's not like she could see it and be like, "Oh, there's a potential of my dragons becoming this big."
Was it really even there?
You think Ricardo made up some bones?
I'm not saying that he did. I'm asking the question.
So what the fuck did Ricardo see?
I don't know, probably nothing. Sand. Um, it had to have been an old dragon because if he can run his horse through his mouth, Meraxus was old as fuck, and it could swallow horses whole. So this thing had been old.
Yeah, and Sheep Stealer wouldn't have been that old.
Well, I mean, when he left Westeros, he wasn't that old, so he would have had to live a long time.
Even then, wasn't Balerion over 200 years old when he died?
Probably.
And he was the one that was big enough to fit an ox through his mouth. So this sheep stealer wouldn't have had enough time to grow that big. I don't think.
Unless it just circled around the red waste and then just died. Because there's no food, no people. I don't know. But you brought up an interesting point there. Like, is this supposed to symbolize something? And as of right now, I don't think it does. But this could be something farther on down the road where it might. On the flip side, if it was supposed to have some kind of significant foreshadowing impact, you'd figure Dany would see it and not Ricardo, right? Like Dany would see the dead dragon bones and have some kind of reflection on it,
and have
and
a
not
vision
just, oh
or
yeah,
a dream.
I saw one, and like I don't think that's trying to seed anything, and I don't think anything comes of it down the road, especially not through a Dance of Dragons because that's the most fresh in my mind. Maybe there's some kind of reference or symbolism to it whenever she gets into the House of the Undying.
Later on in this book, and I think maybe in the beginning of Storm, she thinks about Vase Toloro a couple times. I can't remember if she thinks about the dragon bones though.
Perhaps. But yeah, from what I'm thinking now, like there's no significance of a dragon dying in the sand in an empty wasteland.
Well, she's in the middle of the Dothraki Sea. So if Drogon leaves her, or, well...
He did.
Viserion and Rhaegal are loose over Marine. Marine has pyramids. Pyramids are made of sand. I don't know.
You're doing that thing.
I
know. Yeah. Let's leave the symbolism interpretation for the smarter people.
I wasn't. That's not symbolism. That's literal. Pyramids are made of sand.
So the next thing I have is will we meet Laness or Traegar or Malin? Or Malin? Traegar again.
Who the fuck is Traegar?
The dude that Laness went to go fuck because he had money.
Okay.
And he's on, or they were last known to be on Lies?
Lies?
Yep.
And she's the head concubine.
Right. She's the boss bitch. And my idea is that Dany is going to pit stop all the way across in these slave cities, Volantis being first up, and then probably Lies, on her way over through the step zones and whatnot. So I think there's a chance that they might pop into our story later on down the road.
The Hightowers are up to some shit. I don't know if Laness would be the one we see, though.
Well, Laness doesn't seem to have anything to do with a conniving Hightowers.
With her family? Well...
Right.
Why was Leighton so willing to give up his beautiful daughter to some random lower lord?
I don't know. Leighton's a fucking crazy person anyway, isn't he?
Leighton's not crazy. His daughter's crazy, but he's up in that tower now with the crazy daughter.
Right, so he's crazy.
Well, nah.
You know what they say, like daughter, like father.
That would make me an alcoholic, so no.
Are you sure? But no, I think it's entirely possible and plausible that Dany goes to free slaves on lists because they have a bunch of sex slaves there, and pops in, and she might not actually meet them, and we might not read the characters by name, but
we
there's
hear
some kind of offhand reference, like some blonde that looks like Dany or whatever.
Or that some merchant prince's palace was destroyed in a raid of whatever.
Yeah, something like that. I don't think there's any reason for her to meet and have a conversation with any of them.
No, absolutely not.
Unless Jorah gets accepted back with her.
You know, I just pictured that fucking creepy as fuck. Because he's creepy as fuck and they look like each other, but obviously there's going to be a huge age difference now. It reminds me of that stupid meme with the Spider-Man pointing at the other Spider-Man.
Throw Ashara Dane and Lamore and Quaithe and Shira and
everybody's just gonna point at each other and we're gonna have no idea what's happening.
This fucking room of mirrors. Alright, well, it seems like that's gonna wrap it up for us today, guys. Follow us on Twitter at GC_podcast. And,
isn't there an underscore after that?
Yeah, there is. GC_podcast _. Apparently there's a lot of GC podcasts out there. But anyway, follow us on Twitter. Share us around on there to your friends and your communities and stuff like that. Subscribe to the YouTube page. No one ever likes our videos, so like, if you guys got to this far in this episode, just give us a like so we can see who actually did make it here, and if anyone does actually like it. That'd be kind of cool. But subscribe to us. Keep watching as we go through with Dany. We're on iTunes and Stitcher and Google Play and all that other stuff.
And SoundCloud.
And SoundCloud. Not a whole lot of people listen to us on those other things. It's mostly just YouTube and SoundCloud. But they're there if you want them. So join the Facebook group, ASOIF/GOT Discussions and Theories. You can see us comment on there a lot more. Lillian's also got the reread group going on somewhere in the middle of A Storm of Swords, right?
We're almost halfway through A Storm of Swords, yes.
And that is the Citadel.
ASOIAF reread.
There's the full name. So yeah, talk to us in the comments. Let us know what you guys think. And we will see you in the next one in Dany 2.
Thanks, guys.